Welcome to MRTECH Podcast Studio. Here, we dive deep into the world of technology and innovation, exploring how cutting-edge solutions are transforming field operations across industries. Today's topic is the exceptional capability of 5G True AR and MR technologies for the oil and gas industry and real-world applications. Now, let's hear from Helen, our Global Marketing Director, and Gary Torreson, a seasoned expert with over 30 years of experience in oil and gas digital transformation and is currently leading the charge in 5G XR technology, as they discuss how 5G True AR and MR technologies are transforming the oil and gas industry.
The energy sector, right? I mean, it's like the backbone of the entire global economy, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're talking trillions of dollars, millions of jobs.
For sure. And, up until fairly recently, I mean, even as recently as like the mid-2010s, fossil fuels were still king, like over 80% of the global energy mix.
Huge. But things are changing, right? Renewables are becoming more and more important. And that's what we're going to be diving into today, how cutting-edge technology is playing a crucial role in this whole transformation of the energy sector.
Exactly. And the specific technologies that we're going to be focusing on in this deep dive are true augmented reality, or AR, and mixed reality, MIMR.
AR and MIMR.
And, these aren't just futuristic concepts anymore. They're already having a real impact on how the oil and gas industry and the wider energy sector actually operates.
No, I get it. The world of emerging tech can feel a bit overwhelming sometimes, right? There's always something new popping up, but that's why we're here. The goal of this deep dive is to cut through all the noise and extract the truly crucial information about how AR and MR are making a real difference.
Real world impact. That's what we're after.
Exactly. We want you to come away with a clear understanding of how these technologies are moving from the lab to actually impacting this vitally important field.
So maybe we should start by just clarifying what we actually mean when we say true AR and MR.
Yeah, good idea.
Okay, so true augmented reality basically takes digital elements. You have things like data displays, holographic images, real-time information, that sort of thing.
Right.
And it overlays them onto your view of the actual physical world. So you're seeing the real world, but with this added layer of digital information on top of it. And what makes it true AR is that you can actually interact with those digital elements hands-free.
Hands-free.
Yeah, using voice commands, gestures, even eye movements in some cases. So examples of the hardware that make this possible.
Like the actual devices.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about devices like the MRT2000EX, the MRT4000EX, the MRT3000VZ DAM4000, ML2 MRT GTH4000, and MRT GTC2000.
Okay, so those are all true AR devices. Got it. Now, what about mixed reality? You said that takes things a step further.
It does. So with MRR, those virtual objects that you're seeing aren't just overlaid on the real world. They actually interact with your real environment as if they were physically present.
Wow.
Imagine like reaching out and manipulating a virtual valve that's superimposed on a real pipe.
Okay.
You can do that with MR devices like the Microsoft HoloLens, the MRTECH RX2 dual mode MR, and the MRT RX20.
So it's like they're actually there even though they're not.
Pretty much, yeah. It's a very immersive experience. Oh, and we should probably just briefly mention assisted reality as well.
Right.
It's worth distinguishing. These are less immersive systems.
Right.
They often use smaller screens, like 2D screens that aren't see-through.
Okay.
And they offer more limited interaction. So devices like the MRTECH CM1000 or the RealWear would fall into that category. But our real focus today is on the more advanced, the true AR and MR technologies.
The cutting edge.
Exactly.
And, we're talking about technologies that are being used in very demanding industrial settings like oil and gas, right?
For sure.
It's worth noting that some 5G-enabled true AR devices, specifically the MRT GTH4000 and MRT GTC2000, have achieved ATEX Zone 1 certification.
That's right.
Now, for our listeners who might not be familiar, that basically means that they're certified for use in potentially explosive atmospheres.
Yeah, it's a really important safety standard in the oil and gas industry.
It's huge.
Absolutely crucial. And it really highlights why 5G true AR and MR are proving to be such a perfect fit for the oil and gas sector.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit. Why is it such a good fit?
Well, think about the core benefit of true AR. You have this completely hands-free, see-through 3D augmented experience. It's a huge step forward from having to hold a tablet or try to look at a small fixed screen while you're working.
Right. Right. No more juggling devices while trying to do these intricate tasks.
Exactly.
And the role of 5G here, it's really the engine that makes all of this work seamlessly, isn't it?
It is.
We're talking about lightning-fast data speeds and incredibly low latency, which is basically how responsive the system is. And that's what allows for the real-time processing of these very complex 3D models. And, something we're going to talk about later, these digital twins.
Yes, absolutely. Digital twins are a game changer.
Right in the technician's field of view.
Right there in front of them.
So imagine seeing the intricate schematics of a piece of machinery overlaid directly onto the physical equipment itself.
Yeah, that's the power of true AR. And you know what else? These aren't bulky, heavy devices. They're actually quite lightweight.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Take the MRT GTH 4000 binocular glasses, for example. They only weigh about 350 grams.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
No, it's really impressive. And that lightweight design is vital for comfort, especially when workers have to wear these things for extended periods. It really reduces fatigue. And on top of that, they're designed to be really rugged and compatible with hard hats and other safety equipment.
So they can handle the often harsh conditions found in the oil and gas industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, when we talk about these true AR glasses, we often hear the terms binocular and monocular.
Right.
Historically, it seems like monocular glasses were more common, especially in heavy industries.
Yeah, that's true.
Can you break down for us the key differences between binocular and monocular true AR glasses and, the advantages of each?
Yeah, definitely. So let's start with binocular true AR glasses. The main advantage here is the truly immersive viewing experience.
Okay.
Because both your eyes are engaged, right? Those virtual elements feel much more natural, much more integrated into your perception of the real world.
I see. So it's less like looking at an overlay and more like the digital information is actually part of your surroundings.
Exactly. Yeah. And these binocular systems can create a surprisingly large simulated screen. We're talking 65 to 85 inches.
Wow.
Yeah, a huge virtual display.
Okay.
And that makes it so much easier to view complex diagrams, procedures, even really detailed 3D models without needing a physical monitor.
It sounds like that would also significantly enhance the capabilities for a remote collaboration.
Absolutely. I mean, the improved depth perception that you get with binocular glasses makes it so much easier for people to work together on those shared virtual models, even if they're not physically in the same location.
So if you're, say, reviewing a 3D design or providing remote assistance for a tricky repair, that improved depth perception would be really invaluable.
Absolutely. It makes a big difference.
It also strikes me that having a larger, clearer display would just be a lot easier on the eyes in general, right?
Yeah, generally speaking, that's true. Reading text, processing visual information, it tends to be a lot more comfortable with the binocular system because it reduces eye strain. Makes it easier to focus on those fine details for longer periods.
I'm also curious about how these different systems impact our sense of space and depth.
Yeah, that's a really important point. Binocular systems offer much better depth perception, and that translates directly to improved spatial awareness.
Which is,
critical in fields like architecture and construction.
Oh, for sure.
And it's also really important in those remote training scenarios we were talking about.
Right.
Where understanding those spatial relationships is so important.
Yeah.
Basically, your brain doesn't have to work as hard to interpret the virtual information as being part of the real world.
I see.
And that can lead to less mental fatigue over time.
Yeah.
So ultimately, the more seamlessly you can overlay that digital content onto the real world, the more intuitive and natural the whole experience is going to be.
Okay, so binocular sounds like it's really the direction things are moving, especially for these complex tasks.
It does seem that way.
But, as we mentioned, monocular glasses have been around longer, and they're still relevant today.
Yeah, definitely.
What are some of their key advantages?
Well, for one thing, there's the really crucial aspect of safety, right?
Right.
So monocular AR glasses are designed in such a way that one of your eyes maintains a completely unobstructed view of the real world,
Okay.
while the other eye is viewing the augmented display. So in industrial settings, like the ones we're talking about, where situational awareness is so critical, that clear, unimpeded view can be a real lifesaver.
That's such a crucial distinction in those sorts of environments. You really do need to stay grounded in reality.
Absolutely. And another important factor is cost, right?
Okay.
Monocular AR glasses generally have a lower price point because they require fewer components, less processing power.
Okay, so it's a simpler system overall.
Yeah, which makes them more accessible to companies that want to start implementing AR without having to make a huge investment.
Right, right. And I would imagine that, with fewer components, they'd also be a bit lighter and probably more comfortable for longer periods of use.
That's generally true, yeah. They tend to be lighter and more comfortable, which is a big consideration if you're going to be wearing these things all day.
What about the user interface? Is it any different with a monocular system?
It can be, yeah. Monocular AR glasses often have a more streamlined and less distracting user interface. Because they're only delivering information to one eye, you can quickly glance at that information without having to be completely immersed in the digital content.
Got it.
So it helps to reduce that cognitive overload.
So it's more about targeted information delivery, quick glances at data or instructions, rather than trying to create this fully immersive experience.
Exactly. Monocular glasses are really good for tasks that require, the quick checks, things like accessing a maintenance checklist hands-free or seeing real-time equipment performance data. And they also tend to be more energy efficient, which means longer battery life, which is really important in remote locations.
Yeah, absolutely.
And some people argue that because they have fewer moving parts, they might actually be more durable and better suited to those really harsh industrial environments.
So, it really sounds like the choice between binocular and a monocular ultimately comes down to what you're using it for, right? The specific tasks and priorities.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Whether you need that full immersion and the ability to interact with detailed models, or whether you need to maintain maximum situational awareness and just have that targeted information delivery.
Exactly. It's all about finding the right tool for the job.
Okay, so we've covered AR pretty extensively. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about those advancements in mixed reality, particularly the concept of life-size digital twins.
Yeah, that's a really exciting area.
It kind of sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
It does a bit, doesn't it?
But it's real, right?
Oh, yeah, very much so.
I've heard the term digital twin before, but I'm not entirely sure I understand what it actually means.
Okay, so basically in the context of MR, a digital twin is a virtual replica of a physical asset.
Okay.
It could be a piece of equipment, a whole system, even an entire facility.
Wow.
And the amazing thing is that with these advanced MR devices, like MRTEC's MRTRX20, as well as more well-known systems like Microsoft Holland's, you can actually create these digital twins at a one-to-one scale.
So like full size.
Exactly. So imagine you're able to walk around a virtual model of an airplane engine that's the exact same size as the real one, or even take it apart virtually and examine all the individual components.
That's incredible. So how is this actually being used in a practical way, especially in the oil and gas industry?
Well, the potential benefits are huge. Think about maintenance, for example.
Okay.
You could have a life-size digital twin of a really complex piece of machinery overlaid right onto the actual equipment.
Wow.
And that could guide a technician step by step through a really complicated repair process.
Right, right.
Or, for training purposes, you could have personnel interacting with a virtual control panel that looks and functions exactly like the real one.
But in a safe environment.
Exactly. No risk of making a mistake that could have real-world consequences.
Right, right.
And from an operational planning perspective, engineers could use these digital twins to conduct virtual walkthroughs of a new facility before it's even built.
Right.
Identify potential issues with the layout or accessibility, things like that.
So it's like having a perfect interactive blueprint that you can literally walk around inside of and really get a feel for the space.
Yeah, it's a very powerful tool. And, the good news is that these MR platforms are becoming more and more user-friendly.
Okay.
A lot of them are built on platforms like Unity, for example, which is a really widely used development platform.
Yeah.
And they offer really comprehensive development kits that make it easier for companies to create these sophisticated MR environments that are tailored to their specific needs.
So it's not just some niche technology that's only accessible to a few big companies. It's actually becoming more widely available.
Yeah, definitely. The technology is becoming more democratized, which is really exciting.
So, we've talked about all these amazing potential applications, but what are the key factors that are really driving the adoption of AR and MR in the energy sector right now? Like, why is this happening now?
Well, I think there are a few key factors. First of all, the energy sector is incredibly complex.
Oh, yeah.
They're talking about these vast systems of interconnected equipment and machinery, and it can be really challenging to train people effectively using traditional methods.
I mean, I can only imagine trying to understand the inner workings of a giant oil refinery by just looking at diagrams on a page.
Exactly. And that's where AR and MR really shine,
Mm.
because they allow you to visualize these things in such a powerful way.
Right.
And the speed and low latency of 5G are critical here. You need that real-time responsiveness to be able to interact with these detailed 3D models without any lag.
So it's about moving beyond this kind of abstract theoretical knowledge to a more concrete, visual, hands-on learning experience.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about making that information come to life. And that's why AR and MR are so effective for training in the energy sector.
It sounds like these technologies are really addressing some very real pain points in the industry.
They are.
What are some of the specific things that are making them so incredibly useful right now?
Well, for one thing, a lot of energy facilities are located in very remote areas.
Yeah, that's true.
So getting expert support out to those sites can be really difficult and expensive. But with AR and MR, you can have remote experts virtually guiding on-site personnel.
It's like having a virtual expert looking over your shoulder no matter where you are in the world.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of safety, right?
Right.
You can't really simulate a dangerous situation like a gas leak in a live operational environment.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
But with AR and MR, you can create those scenarios virtually and train people how to respond in a safe and controlled way.
So it's about learning from potential dangers without putting anyone in harm's way.
Exactly. And in the energy sector, downtime can be incredibly costly.
Oh, yeah. Every minute that a plant is offline can translate to huge losses.
Right. So the ability to quickly identify and resolve problems is really critical. And AR and MR can help with that by giving technicians instant access to the information they need.
Schematics, procedures, even remote expert support.
Right there at their fingertips.
And what about the complexity of the work itself? I mean, maintaining and troubleshooting equipment in these hazardous environments, it's got to be really challenging.
It is.
And these systems, they can help by providing that hands-free access to critical information, right?
Exactly. They make the work safer and more efficient. And the training aspect is so important.
Right.
The ability to simulate those hazardous situations in a safe environment is just invaluable.
It's not just about fixing things when they break down, it's about preventing those breakdowns from happening in the first place.
Exactly. And then, the energy sector is becoming increasingly globalized, so being able to collaborate effectively across different locations is more and more important.
Makes sense.
And AR and MR can really facilitate that. They allow people to participate in virtual meetings, inspections, all sorts of collaborative activities, regardless of where they are physically located.
So it sounds like there's a real convergence happening right now between these amazing technological capabilities and the very specific needs of the energy sector.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And we're seeing that reflected in the rapid adoption of these technologies by some of the biggest energy companies in the world.
So let's talk about some specific examples of how true AR and MR are actually being used in the oil and gas industry right now.
Okay.
Let's start with field maintenance.
Okay, so in field maintenance, AR is proving to be a really versatile tool. For example, it can be used for what we call geospatial identification. So basically, it can help technicians to pinpoint the exact location of a piece of equipment that needs to be repaired.
Okay, so no more wandering around a huge oil field trying to find the right valve.
Exactly.
Right.
And it can also help them to identify the likely cause of the problem based on historical data and the location of the equipment.
So it's not just about finding the problem, it's about diagnosing it as well.
Right. And then, of course, there's the safety aspect.
Okay.
AR can be used to overlay information about potential hazards right onto the technician's view.
Like a warning system.
Yeah, exactly. It's a constant reminder of the things they need to be careful of.
Makes sense.
And for managing work orders, AR can show technicians the history of repairs for a particular piece of equipment and any upcoming tasks that are scheduled.
So they have a complete picture of what's been done and what needs to be done.
Exactly. And you know how we were talking about drones earlier?
Yeah.
Well, the images and data captured by those drones can be integrated into AR and MR systems.
So technicians can see things like thermal images or radiation readings right there in their field of view.
Yeah, which gives them a much more complete understanding of what's going on.
Very cool.
And they can also access all sorts of other important information like weather forecasts and the location of other crew members.
So it's all about having that real-time operational awareness no matter where you are.
Exactly. And when it comes to the actual hands-on work, AR can provide step-by-step instructions and 3D models right on top of the equipment.
So it's like having a virtual instructor right there with you.
Yeah, and the technician can use the system to document their progress and even create new work orders if they need to.
So it streamlines the whole process.
It does. And lastly, AR can be configured to give customized safety alerts based on the worker's role and experience level.
So like if someone's working at a height, the system could give them a warning about the risk of falling.
Exactly. So as you can see, there are a ton of applications just within the area of field maintenance alone.
So what about some other areas like plant operations, project management, things like that?
Yeah, so in those areas, MR is really proving its worth. It's particularly good at enabling remote collaboration. So for example, project teams can use MR to hold virtual meetings and conduct virtual walkthroughs of facilities.
So they don't all have to be physically present at the site.
Exactly. They can be anywhere in the world.
What about warehouses and supply chain management?
Yeah, AR can be really helpful in those areas too. It can guide workers to the right location to pick up items, for example.
So it makes the whole process more efficient and less prone to errors.
Exactly. And for inspections, AR can overlay information about the equipment right onto the inspector's view.
So they can easily see if anything's out of place or not meeting specifications.
Yeah, and they can receive real-time alerts if any potential problems are detected.
Very cool. What about manufacturing, construction, and fabrication?
So in those areas, AR is being used to provide step-by-step instructions to workers, so they can complete tasks more accurately and consistently.
Right.
And it can also be used for remote assistance. A technician can share their view with an expert who's located somewhere else.
And that expert can provide real-time guidance.
Yeah, it's like having a virtual mentor right there with you.
Very powerful stuff. Now, what about the engineering side of things?
Yeah, so for engineers, AR and MR are proving to be really useful for things like training new personnel.
Okay.
And for conducting design reviews. They can use these systems to visualize facilities in 3D, which helps them to identify potential problems early on.
So it's not just about the actual construction phase, it's also about the planning and design phase.
Exactly. It's about thinking ahead and making sure that everything's going to work as intended.
So it seems like these technologies are really being applied across the entire spectrum of the energy sector.
They are. And that's because they're offering real, tangible benefits.
Enhanced safety, increased efficiency, new ways to collaborate and train.
Exactly. It's really remarkable how quickly these technologies are being adopted.
Yeah.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the key takeaway is that AR and MR are no longer just futuristic concepts.
They're actually making a difference right now.
They are. And particularly when they're combined with the power of 5G networks, they have the potential to revolutionize the way the energy sector operates.
And for you, our listener, we hope you've come away with a better understanding of what these technologies are, how they're being used, and why they're so important.
Absolutely.
But, as you think about all of this, consider the implications that go beyond the energy sector. How might AR and MR transform other industries? How might they even change the way we live our daily lives?
Those are great questions.
What new skills and considerations will become important as this idea of a blended reality becomes more and more commonplace?
It's definitely something to think about.
It's a very exciting time to be following this technology.
It really is.
And we'll be back soon to continue exploring this fascinating world of emerging tech. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me.
This is MRTECH. Ready for tomorrow.